Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Erica Wills, and I'm a professor at the School for Workers, an assistant professor at the School for Workers. And I'm joined today with Kilah Engelke, who is one of the co-founders of empowHER, the Wisconsin Women in the Building Trades group. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what empowHER is, the projects they have going on, and what they have planned for the future. So thank you so much for joining us today, Kilah. Can you tell everyone a little bit about how you got involved with the union and how long you've been a union member and in what capacity to get started?
Sure. So I am a union cement mason by trade. I'm a road builder, concrete finisher, also known as. But I started when I was 18. So that's like 26 years ago now. But I started my apprenticeship, graduated in 2005. I started as a laborer, and I wound up joining the cement masons apprenticeship starting in 2001, and I graduated apprenticeship in 2005. Slowly but surely got more and more involved with the workings and the business side of the union. I was asked upon completion of my journey person certificate to be one of the joint apprenticeship and training committee trustees. And then from there, my local and my our training fund decided to hire an apprenticeship and training coordinator, and then I applied for that position. And I got that position. I started in there in 2011. And then a few years later, in 2018, I ran for and was elected to the position of business agent for my local 599. About a year later, just like I said, being more involved with kind of like the workings of like the building trades, and our area. I represent the Milwaukee area. I was able to join up with a bunch of like-minded tradeswomen, and we created the group called empowHER, which is an affinity group to we have our main kind of like big picture goal would be to make it not a spectacle to have women in the industry or women on a job site eventually. So that was our main goal. But we also work to do outreach. So examples of successful tradeswomen in the industry, successful career people. We're hard pressed to do something about retention. So this is where kind of like we work together with the UW School for Workers currently, and then promote a path of leadership. So whether that's helping people navigate their union meetings, whether it's helping them, understand their collective bargaining agreement, whether it's giving them advice as one non-traditional employee to another, how to navigate your career. But our group has been really successful in, trying to make some of that stuff, a reality for women in the industry. So.
Yeah, thank you. So I learned about empowHER actually before I came to Wisconsin by calling you, Kilah. I remember giving you a call, and you might have been in Las Vegas at a conference.
I was in DC. I was going home from the legislative conference when you called. So
Yeah. And I was like, I'm really interested in what this group is doing. Tell me more about empowHER. And so it's been amazing to learn more about empowHER, and to be able to work with you all specifically on the mentoring program that you're putting together. Because one of the things you just mentioned is that a goal of empowHER is to normalize women being in the field, so it doesn't seem like a spectacle. But to do that, you have to recruit and retain women. And we know statistically from research and when we speak to people about their experiences that mentoring is a key factor, specifically women mentoring women within the building trades. And so one of the pillars when empowHER was developed, one of the major kind of project pillars was to create this mentoring program. So do you want to talk a little about where the idea for that came from, or what made you realize that that was an important component? And then we can talk a little bit about how that's developed over time.
yeah, so we actually, through our different connections throughout the industry, we were actually approached by the Department of Workforce Development for the state of Wisconsin. the Bureau of Apprenticeship Standards, and there was a grant that we were asked to apply for. And we, considering that retention was one of our main goals and that we had, organically decided that we wanted to do something about mentoring anyways, we decided that it was a good time to kind of like, get together and collaborate. And then, this new connection that we had with you, Dr. Wills, Erica, was kind of like perfect timing as far as like having something that we could put teeth to like what we wanted to do, which was create a mentoring program. With all, like I said, throughout the industry and our different representations as empowHER members, we've all had experiences with mentors, good and bad. But a few of us, decided, and I'll say this over and over, and I have to give her credit for saying this, but one of our current president, actually, Christina Brightlow, said at one point in time that she felt very lucky to have had the opportunity to have great mentors along the way. And I did too. But she said, we want to take the luck out of, being able to be connected to a good mentor. So we want that to be something that we actively and like, decidedly say that we're going to do this to provide this to other women that are trying to come up in the industry and come up in these, in these careers, and be there for them. Like I said, to take the luck out of like trying to get connected to somebody that's going to do good for you and that's going to help you and mentor along the way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we did early on is, as you said, this has been really a collaborative project between empowHER and the School for Workers. We did listening sessions and some surveys in the different regions to figure out what women who are in the field think are the important topics that need addressed for retention and are important for women to know early coming on. And so this really became a program that was built from the grassroots level up. And we're at the stage now where we've started doing the training of the mentors, figuring out what that mentoring relationship is going to look like, and then they're going to be paired with a mentee. And one of the amazing things I think during those sessions that I've heard that relates back to what you were talking about of taking the luck out of it is that women say both, I want to become a mentor because I had an amazing mentor, and I want to become a mentor because I didn't have a mentor and I wish I would have. So the idea that across the board, women realize the importance, whether it's something they've experienced or not, was I guess something I wasn't expecting. I was expecting most people would come in there having had a mentor and say, I had a mentor, I want to follow this path, but many people didn't. And so they realized that there was something that they would be getting out of that and they want to contribute that. So I think that's really, really interesting and really shows the commitment that of the members of empowHER to be forward looking in the impact that they can make in the field.
Yeah, well, and to, like to that point, we wanted to, one of our, I guess if you want to say values is that we always want to remain positive and solution minded, where we can, we can easily get into like rabbit holes of like, I don't know, focusing on what's bad or focusing on, maybe what we don't have control over, but like initiating this kind of like, I guess if it's a culture change, for the industry, so that like we said, in the future, it, who knows, maybe the job sites will look more like our communities, which is, made up half of women. But that's kind of it's pretty far off from that at this point. But we want to do, we wanted to like take advantage of like our different, positions of leadership and our different collaborative partners, and just kind of like the atmosphere right now with like what's going on with the government and, different bills and different, different opportunities that we have to kind of like seize the moment as far as like making, making a move to be impactful, when we can. And we're lucky to have, like you said, like these different groups of women have all brought a passion and brought, different perspectives, whether they're coming from the point where they wanted to change something or whether they wanted to like be what they were, what someone else was for them. But either way, it's a good chance for us all to come together and, do what we can to make an impact.
Yeah, and you can correct me if these are off, if you have newer statistics, but I think in Wisconsin, overall, women in the building trades are at about 3% overall?
3%. Yeah. 3%. And I feel like in the past few years, just in the Milwaukee area, which is like a lot, a more concentrated population, we're creeping on 4%, which is, a huge win. And we'd like to hopefully take some of the credit for it as empowHER and, the involvement that we've had in, projecting, that if you can see it, you can be it by being there at career fairs and stuff like that. But yeah, 3%, it's a pretty, it's a pretty low number. So we definitely have room to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And in some unions, some of the building trades union, it's higher, it's like 10%, 9 or 10%, but in some it's almost 0%, right? So there's that difference within the different building trades unions.
Yep.
But one, I think, interesting thing that empowHER does is it's not just focused on one union. It's not just a single union program, but it's collaborative to bring the different unions together, because we know that the amount of women in the building trades and the resources for those women from union to union and the programs may vary. So this really picks that up. And mentoring is one aspect of it that we've been focusing on. But I know another major project that you have going is the childcare, the pilot childcare project. Can you talk a little bit about that one?
Sure. So we're lucky to be one of the chosen parts of the country. The North American Building Trades Union, the organization that kind of like blankets over all trades in the United States and Canada, has been super forward about making use of fundraising and the ability to kind of make an impact and break down the barrier that childcare presents to construction workers differently than it does, to potentially some of the other industries. We have special kind of barriers in the fact that we start earlier in the morning, typically before daycare's open. So that might impact your ability to be, participating during the full day if you're a parent, or if you're somebody that has to shuffle your kids around in the morning before you go to work. Other variables, your job site might change from day to day. There might be weather or something that happens, especially I was a road builder, so there could be a rain day. But if, for example, I had a rain day, I wouldn't be able to take my kids out of daycare and just keep them at home without paying for that spot anyways, or I would lose that good spot. So additionally, even as an apprentice, most of our people don't qualify for any other type of aid, if it's, state assistance or anything like that, because like I said, even at, the earliest stage of apprenticeship, you're already making a wage that kind of brings you out of the qualification, parameters. So we wanted to be able to, use what we had, which was, actually, we were tasked to figure out how one option for providing daycare would work to help the industry and ideally break down that barrier. And that was, we were tasked to use a near to a construction site daycare center. So we partnered initially with MATC. This program's been ongoing, and it started, I'll say we got into the weeds of it in 2022, and we're going to be covered through 2025. So it's been, a learning process. But we were, like I said, we partnered with MATC, which has a, a quality daycare center. And we worked with a contractor, and all of this is surrounding a project called the Couture in downtown Milwaukee on the lakefront, which has a project labor agreement, meaning all the building trades were going to be involved and have access to this project. So it was initially surrounding employees of, that contractor and that we're going to be working on that project. We tried that for a couple months and didn't get any bites. We had nobody take advantage of the spaces that we were kind of holding and paying for with this big grant. So we identified that was probably not the best way to help people. We transitioned in the past, over the past few months, beginning in April of this year, 2023, we were able to start offering people vouchers or giving them financial assistance to offset their daycare costs at the facilities that they were a part of, which means that they can, use, whatever provider that they had. And if it was a registered center, as opposed to me, I have family that takes care of my kids, but if it was a registered center, we were able to cover up to half of their costs weekly, which is fantastic. We have about 8 people currently making use of this revolving, benefit that's going to help them, every week. And then we can also provide one-time assistance to people. We do $500 vouchers for people that are using non-registered care centers, like a family member or whatever, family member, friend, but someone that's not registered. But what we've seen is we've seen 5 people use that so far, but we have, recently been, I guess if you want to say, awarded an extension so that we continued, like the pilot program was just that. We were trying to, do research to figure out how to eventually, without the grant help, figure out how within, in this case, the Milwaukee area, we could like work it into collective bargaining, or we could somehow figure out how we can provide this as unions to our members so that men and women alike, we don't just service women. That was ideally meant to break down the barrier for women, but we do help, we help dads too. So we're not going to turn anybody away, but it is a tool that we're using to be able to figure out what the dollar amount is going to be to like sustain the program for, the future. So.
Yeah. And excuse me, my understanding too is that, I mean, it's a really big finding to discover that the voucher system appears to be working better than the site-based system, because I think going in, that was one of the big question marks that was being looked at. Which of these approaches is going to draw in the most people? And it was kind of being compared across the nation in different places, and maybe New York is the other place that has a program similar to that. And I think that finding in and of itself, that people like to be able to choose and go to the childcare center that they want to, not necessarily one that's by the site where they're working, is a good finding to know how to move forward with that too.
Well, and that's just, with regard to like, the nomadic kind of like part of our trade is that we don't necessarily always go to the same job site. Even if we are on, a specific project, there might be days of the week, there might be weeks at a time where you're going to a different site. So to come, in this case, all the way downtown, the general population of our membership typically doesn't live downtown or near the site anyway. So to come all the way downtown to drop your kid off at a daycare next to a project and then go, it just presents, other issues. So and that site, it'll be around for whatever, people will be working there now, and within the next year, that project will be wrapped up. So, places that are close to people's home typically is a little bit more functional. Or like I said, if they're working with a, somebody that they trust, a known family member, a friend, somebody in an unregistered type of situation. But that's the best we could do is, and make the most impact, was to definitely help people with financial assistance.
Absolutely. And one of the things you mentioned a second ago was that specifically at this point in time with the bills that have been passed, I'm thinking of the Infrastructure Act and the CHIPS Act, some of the Build Back Better legislation, puts the need to have more apprentices, and then creates the opportunity for more women to go into those positions that allow for financial independence, good benefits, all the union advantage. If there is as well the infrastructure for the mentoring and the retainment to be aware of some of the specific issues and work site challenges that might be faced by women, and then also the childcare aspect. So I think that all of this is also happening at a really opportune time for the kind of projects that are queued up.
Yeah. Well, and then additionally, like slowly but surely and like one by one, the ironworkers started it, but these, kind of really innovative programs to our industry anyways, but like maternity leave. Like I said, the ironworkers kind of like were the first ones to present it to their membership and, do some of the work to put it together, but then slowly but surely all of the different internationals are kind of like falling in suit and falling in line as far as providing some kind of benefit like that to their, to their members to actually be family sustaining. But then you look at it like, what is maternity leave without childcare, right? Because you're in a situation, once you've got the baby there, that's going to be, a pretty big deal and pretty impactful to your career. If there's not some kind of like, I guess you want to say help on the other side. So.
Absolutely. And it's a long process. And I think I really appreciate the way that empowHER is looking at all those steps and stages and how they fit together. Is there anything specific that you want to talk about that I've left out as far as a major project or a major goal or something that empowHER is involved with that you want to talk more about?
Yeah, I mean, the mentoring and the childcare grants are our two, definitely our two major kind of like spotlight initiatives right now. But we definitely want to be involved in outreach, and we definitely intend to kind of like try to make an impact like that and continue to like make it known that the careers that we offer are very attainable, and that there is a network of like-minded women there for you. And like I said, really important to us, and one of the values that we kind of like really strongly uphold is that we're positive and solution minded. So we want to be, I guess to say inspiring, but we definitely want to be there as far as like not letting you fall into a point where you don't think you have any help, or you don't have someone like you that can help you think through how to navigate something, or how to navigate a conversation, or how to advocate for yourself, or how to seek good guidance. But whatever it is, we definitely want to be sure to make sure that people know that we're here and that we're available to them. We have a website, empowHER with an HER, so it's EMPOWHERWI.org. And people can really simply click around, put your email address in, be connected to our network, and like I said, participate. We have monthly meetings for people, and we typically have good conversation points that we ask everybody's perspective, and then we kind of like make sure to note key takeaways and different things that people say that are good little tidbits to like be able to use moving forward. But yeah, we just want to make it known that we're definitely active within the building trades, and that we're here. We're about to, like I said, like Erica said, we're going to collaborate together. We're about to present in a couple weeks at the Tradeswomen Building the Nation conference, which is the biggest construction worker organization organized event in the United States, probably in the world, coming up. And that's a really good stage that we have to present this mentoring program that we're working on together, and have it be something that people have asked for, and people have suggested is a good idea. But we're really proud of the fact that we've been able to work together and kind of like collaborate on this project, and to have the chance to present it on this big stage to all the people. So
Yeah, I'm so excited, and I'm really looking forward to that, and appreciate the invitation to be able to present with you
yeah,
guys. Because as we say, I mean, we're not just saying this is a collaboration. This really is a collaboration. Like, we
definitely.
really have come together. We sit at the table, we talk through every step
Nights
of the
and
process.
weekends.
Nights and weekends, exactly. There's like 11 p.m. or 7
Right.
a.m. Saturday or whenever. We're coming together and doing this and talking about this and presenting about this as well. And Pam and Michelle, two other empowHER members, came and presented with me at University of Wisconsin, and I'm going to present with you at the North America Building Trades Conference. And so this has been something that we talk about. It's beneficial to women in the building trades, but I can also say, just as a union member and a woman worker, that it's been beneficial to me, that
Sure.
we've created those kind of mentoring relationships between each other, and that support network that I feel really, really like honored and very happy to be part of that with all of you. So thank you so much for the work that you do in that area. And I can say completely, wholeheartedly, that it makes a difference to have such a support network.
Right. I mean, and it's mutual, like to have, I know as different building trades and as different unions, I've taken classes through the UW School for Workers. So it's a respected organization. It's, good materials. Sometimes one of the only places you can go as far as a staff person to like be trained and to understand certain things. So I'm just beyond honored. And I know I speak for the rest of my group, to say that we're, like I said, we're really honored to be able to work with this organization and to be able to be working with you, Erica, on this project. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Kilah. So we have about 5 minutes left. And so I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions. If so, if you want to put them in the chat, we can go ahead and answer. We have a couple minutes here. If you have any questions about empowHER, how to get involved, any of the programs that we talked about, or any other comments. Let me give you just a second if we have anyone who has any of those. Otherwise, yeah, if you're a union member and you are involved in the building trades, or if you're a union leader and have contacts who are in the building trades, please make sure to share the information about empowHER, because it's open to women in the Wisconsin building trades, and it'd be fantastic to help grow the program. And I know right now we're kind of in the process of getting and training mentors, and then we'll be matching with mentees. So that's an ongoing process. If you know anyone who wants to be involved in that, they can also go to the website and learn more about how to get involved in that as we continue that program. So I don't see any questions popping up, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. But thank you so much for joining us today, Kilah. It's always wonderful to talk to you. And
yep, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I will see you again soon.
Yep, sounds good.
Bye.